Well, good morning, Liberal Kansas, Southwest Kansas, the Oklahoma Panhandle, and all other places where you tune in to get your news and views from the middle of America. This is Earl with the Leader in Times on Monday, December 11th, 2023. That means we are exactly 2 weeks from Christmas. Joining with me as always, Jim Rice. B. Simon's just off camera, and 2 weeks ago, tell you this weekend was a basketball weekend here in Liberal. The Redskins and Lady Redskins had 4 games total between them. Friday night they hosted Southwestern Heights and they both came away with wins. Boys had to come back, rally late, and get a W. Excuse me. And on Saturday, the Redskins, Lady Redskins hosted Holcomb, and the Lady Redskins got a big win, and the Redskins suffered their first loss of the season to Holcomb. They're both 3-1 now here early on in the beginning of the season. They're going to be going to play a couple more games here before the holiday break. And then on Saturday afternoon, Seward County hosted 2 games as well, and not a good afternoon for the Lady Saints or the Saints. They both lost to Barton County. I think Barton is ranked in the top 10 on the men's side, but the women had a real tough outing. They made 16 of 65 shots, 21%, and there was 13% the game before that. So they're really having trouble finding the basket. They had shots. I mean, they were taking good shots. They were front rimming a lot and just not getting them in. So so far it's been a rough start to the season for the Lady Saints and the Saints, but at the high school, 3-1 and 3-1, and last year I think the boys won 3 games all year, so they've already matched that, and here in just the first 4 games of the year. But that was some basketball that happened over the weekend here. Did you, B, I know sometimes you go out. Did you get to go out to any of the?
I didn't get to go out. No, we had some other stuff going on this weekend, but I heard the scores.
Yeah.
It wasn't pretty.
No, it was a rough one, and did have a Christmas get-together. I'm a part of the Sons of the American Revolution. We had our get-together out at the country club with the DAR. I shouldn't say that. They don't like DAR, the Daughters of the American Revolution. And we kind of do a joint Christmas party together, and it's always good to see those who are patriotic to the core, that not only love America but have chased back their genealogy all the way back to find that they had someone who fought in the Revolutionary War or supported the cause, and still want to honor that in their lineage. So had a little get-together there. So you have a busy weekend?
I did. Had company. Daughter came home from Colorado. Yesterday was Carolyn's birthday, so they went shopping, and I just kind of hung out at the house, did a little woodworking, working on a piece that somebody dropped by. And I went to tear it apart, and guess what? That sucker had square nails in it. I don't know if you're familiar with square nails, but those are probably 100 years old. Anyway, it was a little shelf unit, and so I took that apart, and when I laid that first nail down there, I thought, that kind of feels strange, and I looked at it, and I pulled the next one, and every cotton picking one of them was little square nails. Wow. You don't find that in furniture very often, so I was pretty careful to save them. But anyway, it's an old time piece. But I don't know, I just kind of piddled around and had a good time visiting. And so anyway, we'll see what else happens.
Well, and I forgot to mention, we were doing a gift exchange, and so, we had a dollar limit on that, but we went over to Uncommon to his Kansas shelf. Someone got some of that popcorn you're talking about, because we bought some of that, and we bought some rub, we bought some lotion, candle. A lot of the different Kansas products, some of them made just not too far from here, some of them in Seward County, but all Kansas products. So we gifted Kansas. That's what we did. And he has little gift bags that you put your stuff in. And so we went and saw Todd. Our get together was at 11:30. So I said, "Are you opening this morning at 11?" And he said, "Yeah." So we went over there just in time to get our gifts and get to
All
the
right.
to the get together. So if you are looking for something unique and you're doing one of those little gift exchanges, go get something from Kansas. Give a Kansas gift. You know, someone else was had given these little mugs, and they looked on the bottom and they were made in China. So we gave Kansas products. You know, so I encourage you to give Kansas this year. And also,
Go ahead.
well, I was going to say, if you can't get over to Todd's, he's open Thursday through Saturday, 11 to 4. Get out to the Coronado Museum, to their gift shop, and give something away that says Kansas or says liberal on it. You know, send that to somebody, you know, to show a little community pride. Give a local gift.
Yeah. Get something made in the USA.
Yeah.
You know, those folks is needing the help too. So anyway, got to quit supporting China. At the Folk Art Festival, I bought a jar of salsa, and that cotton picking stuff was pretty good. And it's made not too far from here. But anyway, it's made in Kansas, all right. But anyway, it was cotton picking good. I forgot the chips. I just started drinking it. Anyway, oh, pretty good stuff.
Well, last year I bought some salsa at the Folk Art Festival. I did a sample first because, you know, Heather says my ethnicity is not conducive to really good salsa because I say cilantro spicy. But I tried this and I was like, okay, I can handle that. I said, I'll take a jar of that. And the jar they gave me did not look like the same color of the jar I sampled. And I said, are you sure this is the same stuff? And they said it was. So I said, okay. Well, it wasn't the same stuff. And I got home and I tried a chip on that, and that lit me on fire for an hour. And so I have a guy I go to church with. He may be watching this morning. And I said, hey, I got some salsa for you, because he likes hot stuff. And so I gave that to him. And so the next week I asked him, "You tried any of that?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "Gonna have to do that in moderation. Yeah, a little at a time." That goes a long way. And I said, that was what they said was the mild stuff.
Yeah.
And I said, it had to be mislabeled. It had to be. But was yours hot?
Oh, for me it wasn't really hot. It just really had a good flavor. Well, Josh over here at the One Way Deli is the one that made it, but it just had a really good flavor to it. But just before that, there was 2 pint jars in the fridge. So I got the first one out, wasn't really paying attention to what it was, and so I opened that up and I took a chip and I dipped into that, and you talk about hot. Now I can stand hot. I don't mind hot at all, but that sucker was hot. I mean, I don't know. I guess it was probably ghost peppers. I never did. My eyes was watering too bad to read the label after that first one, and it burned for a long dang time.
Well, that's a policy is that burn is not a flavor. That is.
That was pretty warm. So anyway, but that other, like I say, I just kind of got me a little bowl and I drank it right out of the bowl and ate a few chips. And I had myself a party.
B, do you do the hot sauces?
In moderation. I do like hot, not quite as much as I used to. When I was younger, I could handle the pretty hot stuff. And as I got older, my system just doesn't like it as much. But I can go. I'm going to scale about 5 or 6 maybe out of 10. But any harder than that, somebody else can handle that.
See, I kind of judge some of our Mexican restaurants in town by their salsa. You know.
Yeah, there's some of them really wimpy.
Yeah. Well, that's where I go. I go to. I think Mixteca has a really good salsa. The El Ranchito, I call the Old North Pizza Hut. That's a good salsa. Tell you what, over here at El Amigo Chavez, it's got a little life to that. Be careful over there. But so, who do you think has the best salsa in town?
Oh, gosh, I don't know. After doing that from the One Way Deli, I'm not too sure that one that I had the other day was about the best I've had because it did have some really good flavor to it. I can't remember what the name of it was, but it wasn't the mild. It was kind of a medium, and I can't remember what he told me the name of it was. But you know, I would say, you know, if I had a choice, I believe I'd stick with that because I started drinking that. Right, I drank about half of that pint. That's good stuff.
So, B, who would
Had
you
no effects this morning.
who would you say has the best salsa in town?
Well, I got the Skinny Man salsa is probably, that's the one that One Way makes.
Yeah.
That's probably about the best that I've had in town. And cause I always buy 2 or 3 jars when we go out to the shows and he's out there, so. Haven't gone to the store and bought it, but I will if I run it, when I run out.
Yeah.
I know where to go to get it, so, that's probably the best in town.
Yeah, and remember, I'm not knocking anybody when I say that. Best salsa in town has to do with your tongue.
That's right.
And nobody else's.
That's right.
It doesn't mean someone's salsa's bad. It means what works for you.
Yeah.
You know. I also
Carolyn would tell you that anything less than tomato juice, I mean anything hotter than tomato juice, is nasty. She don't like anything hot.
well, I also like to, you know, compare the different kind of tortilla chips that they have. You know, I think probably most of them probably make their own, and some of them are thicker, some of them are thinner, and again, that comes down to your own preference. But
Yeah. I bought a bag of Catherine's chips the other day, Catherine's Kitchen. Anyway, they were, I would say, you know, they just were different than the regular chip, and I really enjoyed those. But I didn't, well, they had a little sample out there, and so I tried one of them, and I thought, man, that's pretty good. So I bought the sack, and lucky for me, nobody else been eating them, so I'm gonna, any kind of luck at all, I can have the whole bottle, a whole bag to myself.
And you know, I go to some of our Mexican restaurants, and it sounds maybe a little bit different, but they all have some kind of fish on the menu.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the way that those restaurants prepare the fish. I think almost all of them have a different kind of tilapia, but Vallarta's got me onto that. And of course, Vallarta's isn't here anymore, but they did really good seafood. And I asked them that. I was like, why is Mexican food seafood? And I forget that, you know, Mexico has a beach line also. And so, you know, they have a lot of seafood restaurants in Mexico and
Yep.
that. So they know how to prepare that stuff. It's just different than, you know, some other restaurants, and I like it. You know, first time I got one of those fish, it's the whole fish, and my daughters, and it had the little head on it, and they're like,
Yeah.
no, that's terrible. But finally I said, well, here, try it. Tell me what you think. And the next time we went to that restaurant, they're like, can I get that fish?
Yep.
And I said, yeah. But they had to take the lime and cover his little eye with it because they couldn't look him in the eye while they were eating him. But that's the one thing you get in Liberal. You get authentic. I say you can get authentic Mexican food here.
Yeah. Vargas has got a really good fish taco. I don't know. I think it's tilapia, but I'm not sure. But it is really good, and that's my opinion anyway. But that's about what I order every time I go in there.
Fish taco.
Yep.
And you know, we go out of town, and when we go out of town, we don't really do a lot of Mexican food because we have our chance to do that right here. We've got good Mexican food and stuff right here. But occasionally we have gone to some places, and it's more like fast food Mexican food than authentic Mexican food. I think we are, you know, that's the one advantage we have here is that you can get authentic Mexican food. What do you like to order when you go to a Mexican restaurant?
Oh, I try something different every time. Generally, you know, enchiladas or tacos. I mean, something simple, but with the different spices and different toppings they put on some of them. I try something different every time so that I get a good choice of find out which one I like the best. And then it's hard to choose because almost all of them are always so good. So it's yeah.
Well, the good thing is you get a variety here in town, and you can try a lot of different things. And I tell you what, if you're in a hurry too, the El Pastorcito food truck that's been up here at the corner for a long, long
Oh, yeah.
time. You know, I think it's the
That is-
Super Burrito, and it's only like $5. But I'm telling you, you want a meal and a burrito, that is huge, and that's good too.
It must be, I never have been in there, but my lands, you never go by there if there ain't 6 or 8 cars parked out there at a minimum. I mean, it's, full parking lot all the time.
Yeah, I've been there several times, and it's good food, fast, and but they're making it right there, so you're going to get that. So, yeah, no, I encourage anybody, check out the offerings here in town as you're doing your Christmas shopping and things like that. Take a lunch break, go out and eat here at the restaurants we've got in town. That also helps those places. And I did see up north, I think Rue 21 is closing down. I saw them out on the street with their 50% off signs yesterday at some point. Hate to lose a business, but that's in the strip up at the Liberal Plaza, and maybe someone else will be coming in to fill that slot, but they're closing down at in there.
Well, it's hard to maintain those, I think, the smaller stores anyway, but on the other hand, that's, to lose a small one or two is far better than to lose a giant one. I'd rather have, 10 small businesses than one giant one, because if that giant one closes down, that really affects the economy and the community. Whereas if you lose, a small one like Rue or whatever, it doesn't affect that many folks. But if you lose a big one, it's pretty tough to regain that.
And I don't know if this is going to become a nationwide trend, but you talk about shopping. Do you shop little stores? You shop big stores? I've heard, I need to find out, that some stores are reconsidering the self-checkout lines, whether it's because of theft or whatever, but they want to start phasing those out or that kind of thing. I have to look and see. I'm looking at one story here that says Walmart has removed self-checkout in some stores in New Mexico. But, personally, I like the self-checkout just because I feel like I'm doing something to get myself out quicker. If I'm just standing in line, I'm just standing in line. I'm just, there's nothing I can do to help myself. I just stand there. But with self-check, I can run my stuff across the scanner. If that helps me get out quicker, I kind of like it. I know some people always said, well, did they discount the goods and this and that? And I'm like, the margins at a grocery store are like 3%. It's not like they're doing a whole lot, but it's my time. How valuable is my time? And I didn't want to stand there in a line with 7 other people waiting my turn at the checkout. If I can go to that and just get, especially, I'm not a cart full guy. I'm a handful of stuff guy.
Yep.
And now Heather's a different deal, but and even Heather with the cart full, she's got that machine down, bleep, 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 and then gets the gun out on the big stuff, clean, 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 and she can do that. But I'm spinning stuff around and trying to find this thing, and I know
when
it's
you hear
on
that
here.
magic beep, there it is.
Yeah. But do you like the self-checkout?
Oh, if there's an open, an open checker, I'll go there. Go to Walmart or wherever. I'll travel up and down the aisles and see how many baskets and how full they are. Before I go to the self-checkout. It's all right, but I just kind of like that personal service. And, I'll wait a minute or two if I can, just because I want somebody to check it out. I guess I'm lazy. I don't know. I'm still back in, 1948 day, I guess.
You still pull in the gas station and sit there waiting for the guy to come out and
That's
pump
right.
it.
Yeah, I remember when they used to come out and fill your tank and wash your windshield,
Check your
oil and all of that. Yeah, that's a thing of the past. I hadn't thought about that in a long time, but now then it's a do-it-yourself thing.
Well, you expect the grocery store guy to do all the work. You
That's
won't do your own. What do you be? Are you a self checkout, or you go to the register where there is a cashier?
Well, it depends. If I've got just a handful of items, if there's nobody at the self-check, I'll get it so I can get in and out. I'm done. But if I got a cart full, I'll make them do the work. You know, I still got to put them on the belt, but at least they're going to check them and bag them. So, but yeah, if just a handful of things, self-checkout, I'm in and out, gone.
Well, back in the day, they used to also have someone who'd wheel your cart out
Yeah.
to your car and do that.
Unload your bag for
yeah.
you.
But now, if you'll do the online shopping and you go to the store, they will bring it out and put it in your
Yeah.
car still. You know, so
Well, I see the other night we were at Wendy's, I think, and there was a girl that came in and picked up an order and took it.
Mm-hmm.
And in about 20 minutes, she was back in there picking up another order and taking it. So I think probably that was one of those,
DoorDashers.
yeah, home delivery kind of things that folks was ordering things from Freddy's, and she was busy that night.
well,
America has grown to be very lazy, to tell you the truth, always wanting somebody else to do it for you.
but that's opened up a whole new industry. Look
Yeah,
at
it has.
look at Grubhub, or what's the other one that'll bring the food to
DoorDash.
DoorDash.
Yeah.
Yeah, when
Yep.
you won't even get up and go to the store, you just
Yeah.
order it on your phone and let them bring it
Yeah.
to your door. And I know people right in this town that's for
Yeah.
their job.
Well, they'll call out to Walmart. I know folks that'll call out to Walmart and turn in their order, and then they just drive up in front and they'll wheel it out and load it in the car for them.
Yeah. Well, it's like like going to Vegas when you got Ubers and those. Nobody rents cars.
Yeah.
Taxi drivers. They still got taxi drivers, but not as many. And you pull into the Uber spot, and there's 100 people waiting for a driver to come pick them up and take them someplace.
Well,
So,
case
yeah,
of Brian, he don't even wait for a driver. They just send the car.
Send the car, yeah.
The driverless car.
I still can't. I don't think I could ever. I'd do that.
Not doing that.
I want somebody driving that car.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, he says there's a button in the back seat you can push and it'll pull over to the side. So, what more security you want?
I wonder why places like, okay, so that's Arizona, right? That's where
Yeah.
he's doing that.
Yeah.
I wonder why a place like Orlando, isn't. I mean, Disney could probably put some of those cars in
Yeah.
without a driver to get you from the airport to your resort in Disney.
Yeah.
And I wonder, they used to have a service, it was called the Magical Express, and it was a bus that would do that. But they used the pandemic as an excuse to get rid of that. Now you have to pay for a service, local service, to get you from the airport to the Disney property. See, one thing that we used to do was we never had to rent a car or anything, because Disney, as soon as you landed, Disney would pick you up, Disney would take you to the parks, and then Disney has buses and boats and the Skyliner, which is like a ski lift thing. All their transportation, you didn't need a car.
Yeah.
And then that bus would also take you back to the airport, when your trip was over. So you could be there. And of course, they had to be beneficial to them, because that means you're on their property spending every dime you have with Disney
Yeah.
the whole time you're there.
Yeah.
But they use COVID as an excuse to get rid of that bus. And I don't know if that was a smart move or not. But you talk about these kind of cars, why not?
What more magical experience could you want and ask for than a driverless car to come and pick you up and take you to wherever you wanted to go?
I'm not ready yet for that.
It's not that big a magic.
Well, I want to know. Yeah, that's my concern. Is it is magic? It's not real. It's not running off of. That's AI that I'm not sure about.
Oh, gosh.
But an Uber, I guess. You could Uber over to Disney or whatever. I've never Ubered. Have you Ubered?
Nope.
Have you?
Oh, we go to Vegas. That's all we use is Uber. I rented a van one time. When we were out there, we had my whole family. We were going to use the van, and the van was so hard to get around in because the seats were so tight you couldn't hardly get in and out. I took the van back and we started Ubering everywhere we went, and it was cheaper than the van. So yeah, we use it all the time when we go to Vegas.
You didn't have to worry about a place to park and
They had to
all
worry
that.
about. Park. You pull you right up to the door, let you off, and
Yep.
when you're ready to go, they'll pull back up and take you back.
But this is just, you're just doing this with somebody's private car, right? They're just coming in their own car
Their own car.
and taking it. See, that's the part that bothers me. I just don't know if I want to get into some stranger's car.
It was funny because the last time we went to the concert, and we called Uber to pick us up, and there was a guy, he had a Tesla, had just bought it, and only had a few, couple hundred miles on it. So I asked him, I said, have you let it drive itself yet? He said, I don't trust it to do that. I'm going to drive it on my own. But it was a nice car, definitely interesting. I'd never been in a Tesla till then, but yeah, he said, I'll drive it myself. No, I'm not trusting that.
Yeah, I like I said, I got to ride in a guy's Tesla here, and it had self-guiding, and he showed me it works. We programmed in a place just by saying it, and the car took over, and it started to get us there. But I asked him, I said, do you trust that? And he said, no. He said, no. But I'll show people that it can do it, The other thing was it's electric Tesla he had.
Yeah.
And so he said, put in a destination. So I said, Disney World. And so it's got my screen on my car is about this big. His screen in his car is about this big.
Yeah.
But what it did was it mapped out the path to Orlando and every Tesla charging station he'd need from here to there.
Yeah.
And but again, I'm concerned about how long it takes to charge that up at each place that you got to go.
Yeah.
But I don't know about, like I say, getting into somebody. Are you comfortable just calling some number and getting into somebody? Somebody drives up and says it's you.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, they've got a system though. They've got, those guys are registered, and it's all done by credit card, and and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know. You got an app on your phone?
Yeah, I've
that
got
does
an
that?
app. Well, I'll pull up my app, and it'll tell me the driver's name, the kind of car he has, the tag number, so that when he pulls up, I can verify that before I ever get in the car. Then you also have a code that you have to give them to verify that you are who you say you are, and then they put the code in, and everything's clear, and it just charge you. If you just set your credit card up with it, or your bank card or whatever. I've never had any problem. I've done it for at least 5 years now, 6 years. I've used Uber. I've never had a problem with them at all.
I've been in a few taxis that I had a little question whether I should have got in or not.
I've had a few of those.
Yeah. Well, and the fact is, I've grown up out here. I haven't had a real strong need for public transportation, and then the place that I have decided to go had it all taken care of for me, and so I just became, addicted to that a little bit. I'm careful about it. I saw a funny video online the other day in Vegas, and a guy meets some girl, and she takes him up to her room. And they go in the room, there's 3 armed guys in there, and they take the guy for all he's worth and tie him up to the bed and leave him there. So that's always like, if I'm getting in somebody else's car, are we going to end up out in the country somewhere, or what's going on here? But I bet you places like Vegas and Orlando and places like that Uber's a huge deal. And those guys probably, that's their full-time job, probably just driving people around to the different places and that. I always say the Strip ought to not have cars on it at all. That thing is so crazy congested with traffic that they ought to just block that off and be a walking district only.
Kind of like Main
That's why they
Street
put all
out
the
here.
fences up.
Yeah.
They got fences up now, so you can't really cross the street in many places on a big portion of the Strip. You have to go the walkways over.
So no jaywalking in
No
Vegas.
jaywalking in Vegas.
Yeah. Well, we were coming up to the intersection, and I needed to get. We were going to eat at Hell's Kitchen, and I thought I gave us plenty of time to get there, but the clock's ticking because traffic is absolutely horrible. Even though we were basically just a few blocks away, and they won't leave the lane open. So, like, if you're at Second in Kansas, and you're at Second, you need to go across Second. And the light's going for Kansas, okay, but it's going to change and it's going to be your turn. But there, they just fill in across the street. So if you're Second train, you can't go even when you have a green light because they just all went bumper to bumper and just blocked the whole intersection. So eventually you just have to have the moxie when there's enough room to fit your car to just fit it, because you're not going if you don't. And so just squeezed in there and force your way across because, but I was like, this is insane. Of all the places I've been to Philadelphia, New York, Orlando, L.A. Las Vegas has the worst traffic I've been to in the United States. You've been there a few times.
You been to Atlanta or Portland?
I've been to Atlanta, but not. It's been a while since I've been there in traffic. I've been to Dallas. I hear people complain about navigating through Dallas all the time, but I didn't see it's too bad. If you've got your GPS going on your phone or whatever, you'll make it through. But I've been to the airport in Atlanta, which is, there's heavy traffic in there,
Oh, yeah.
moving around to get to where you want to go. But I haven't driven around Atlanta. But so you've been to both of those. I just think Vegas, in that congested area, Vegas isn't the biggest city in the world, but the Strip is just impossible.
If you can avoid the Strip in Vegas, because when my brother lived out there, we'd go out and we'd, of course, back then we'd drive to dinner with them, and if you weren't going to the Strip, there was no problem in Vegas. Vegas is really easy to get around in. It's just that when you get on the Strip,
Yeah.
it's so congested. Like you said, it's congested. It's crazy. But you get off the Strip, it's as good as any place in town or around to get around. So, but yeah, Portland and Atlanta are the two that I hated the worst of driving in.
So my recommendation, if you're going to go to Vegas, is stay on the Strip and just walk it. I mean, most of the
Be
things.
ready to walk, because you
Yeah.
do a lot of walking.
Yeah. Well, the same thing. If you're going to go to Disney, here's another piece of advice. Don't buy a brand new pair of shoes before you go. You will have calluses or whatever. Get shoes that you're comfortable with that are good, because you are going to do some walking. You're going to do some standing. That's just part of it when you go to places like that. Man, when we got to Hell's Kitchen, and we were right on the bubble of our time, and I was hoping, and I had booked that through, I can't remember, Open Table, I think was the service I used. And I had done 2 on that trip, and the first one they didn't have us down for it, but they went ahead and got us a table, and that was actually inside Disney, but Disneyland. So when I went there, and I told them, and I was like, I hope they got this one, and they're like, yeah, we got you a table for 6, and took us over, and we were sitting right next. I call it like a half a story up. It's not like the second story, but it's like a half story up. But you're looking right out on the Strip. We were right by the window. You could see out on the street. And then we could look across in the restaurant and see the kitchen of the Hell's Kitchen restaurant. Where they're working in there. So it's a really neat place. Have you ever been to that in Vegas?
We were we got looking at the menu before we left, and it's like, I can go eat 2 or 3 different places for that kind of prices. So we backed off of that one. It's a lot of hype.
It's not some place you're going to go. It's not a daily place,
No.
But if you ever want to get there at least once in your life, you want to go there. What kind of restaurants? Have you ever been to one of those once in your lifetime restaurants?
Oh, usually not. I don't remember that. I've been to some that once was enough, but that's not necessarily because of the price. But anyway, I don't know. I don't usually. I kind of know what I want and what I like and who serves it, and then that's where we go. But
Are you a Cracker Barrel guy?
oh yeah,
I thought you were.
Yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. I just think that you could probably pinpoint a demographic for that. That might
Yeah.
fit that. Well, when we go on vacation or out of town, the old rule is you don't eat someplace you can eat in
Yeah.
town.
Oh, we go to Branson. We go to Paula Dean's. That's always pretty good.
Well, that's probably
That's a home style. And it's really not that expensive. I mean, it might be a little bit higher, but Montland's the amount of food that you get. You order your main dish, and then they just keep bringing, the sides, whatever. I mean, you never run out until they say, you tell them, whoa, that's enough. But it's kind of neat. And then but it's not outrageously priced by any means. So.
Well, I had some friends that were going to go to Disney, and we were kind of coaching them a little bit to try to help them make sure that they didn't fall into some of the traps that newbies would. But we talked about the food, and we were looking at the restaurants, and they were looking at the menus, and they're like, gosh, it's a little pricey. I said, but I tell you what, you're not going to be wanting for food. Well, they were still a little worried, so they booked some buffets because they were worried that, they'd get, some big plate with a little food on it like some of those fancy restaurants
Yep.
do. That's not the way it's done at Disney. You're not going to go hungry. And then when they got back, they said, oh yeah, they said the food, you get all the food you want when you go to those places, but you still want, good quality stuff, and place like that has it. Place like Branson is just littered with them. I mean, you
Oh,
can go
yeah.
to all kinds of
Yeah,
neat
there's
restaurants.
all kinds of them.
And I'm kind of happy here in Liberal. We've got a lot of options. I like our barbecue. I'm a barbecue guy. I like our barbecue options. We've got some of the nice chains that you can go to. IHOP, Applebee's, places like that. We've got Billy's, Brick House, things like that. And then all the different Mexican food restaurant options that we have, and Italian across the street here at Napoli's. I mean, for a town of only 20,000, I think we got some pretty good eating options.
Yeah, there's, a good variety of about
And hopefully
anything
more
you
to
want.
come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been getting hit up more and more, B. We're going to have to find out what's going on at the Presto building, because people are like, what are they doing? What are they doing?
I heard a rumor over the weekend.
Oh, what? I think maybe someone told me it was
Like
going
a
to.
beauty shop or
Yeah,
something.
beauty shop. Yeah, maybe we did figure that out, because I think that we got a little inside information. So, beauty shop going in there.
So while you're going down the road, you can just stop in there and get your hair done.
Just pull right in.
Boy, what an idea.
Steakhouse going in at the old Napa building.
Yeah.
And I saw something's going on at Jess Boutique, because they're starting to, they closed that down a while back, but they almost like the cages in the windows have come out. They've taken those out. So I don't know what may be happening there, but that used to be Radke Light and Lumber, if you remember that. So we'll see what happens, what's going to happen there. Well, the poll numbers, got some new poll numbers this morning. And who do you think might be leading in Michigan? We're going to take a look at that. Well, CNN just had a recent poll, and they're starting to release the information out of it to find out in some of the battleground states, how the election would go if it were today. And in Michigan, according to CNN, if the election were today, Trump would beat Biden 50-40 in Michigan. And when you look at the average of all the polls, Real Clear Politics average in Michigan, they have Trump up by 4.1 in Michigan. So if Trump pulls off a double-digit win in a place like Michigan, this election won't even be close.
Well, I think we still got 10 months to go, and I don't see things getting any better. The border is still wide open. Gas prices have come down, and I'm sure it's not a consequence of more drilling. I'm sure that's some kind of a thing to make you feel better about gas prices and Biden economics. But you know, I don't see much change in the policies, and you know, they're still, you know, pushing those behind the scenes. There are a lot of things going on that we're not hearing about that we probably should be hearing about. But as more and more people are affected by this thing and come to the realization that the Democrat Party isn't their buddy, you know, I think there's going to, that, you know, and if CNN's reporting 10%, there's a good possibility it might actually be 30. But anyway.
Well, the media really hasn't started their campaign yet, which is to berate, belittle, trash Trump. I mean, I'm sure that'll have an effect on these numbers eventually, because, you know, they're going to start the democracy is at stake. He's going to be a dictator. You know, America can never recover from a Trump presidency. Blah blah blah. I mean, you know it's coming.
Yeah.
You know, it's.
Sad thing is that's all just backwards of what's really happening. Everything they're telling you that Trump's going to do is already being done by the Democrat Party and those in charge right now.
Their poll also in Georgia has Trump up 49-44 over Biden in a rematch, and those two states alone. If Trump flipped Michigan and Georgia, he wins. But if you flip Georgia or flip Michigan, you're flipping Pennsylvania, you're flipping Wisconsin. I mean, you're going to win easily. And like I say, Biden's lead in New York is only 10, 12 points. In a state he wins by 40, 35, 40 points before. So, I mean, there are some other peripheral states. You know, I'd like to see Minnesota. Minnesota has not voted for a Republican since before Ronald Reagan. They didn't even vote for Reagan. They voted for Mondale. So, you know, Reagan won 49 states, and the one state he didn't win was Minnesota and the District of Columbia. And we also looked that even though he won 49 states, he only got 13% of the District of Columbia. The seat of government is not a balanced place in this country. It's terrible. And that somehow that has got to be addressed. That has to be addressed. But what do you think of him leading in Georgia also?
Well, just hopefully that carries through, you know, the election machines and all of that kind of stuff. You know, how much can they rig it? And I think it's pretty apparent that, you know, they have done that in the past, and so, you know, it's going to have to be an overwhelming amount. You know, the voters voting for Trump than Republicans for him to win. You know, if it's a close race, I think you can probably better keep a close eye on your local elections, because it certainly could, you know, be affected by some scheme they got dreamed up. But
So, B, what's your thoughts on, you know, Trump up by 10 in Michigan, up by 5 in Georgia, on a CNN poll, not exactly the bastion of conservatism there?
Well, I just think it shows the reality of what people are seeing and understanding what's going on in politics right now in America. They're truly believing and seeing what we've been seeing all along, is the fact that the Democrats are running our country into the ground, and we need to change back to good policies and good leadership. So it's about time.
I was listening to Steve Gruber this morning, and he was talking about the effort and the push being made by the Department of Interior and all of these climate change agencies, and their intent to eliminate all federal land, which is about 10% of the country, mostly western states, but to eliminate any kind of production, any kind of hunting, fishing, grazing, you know, all of that stuff, and they're putting the policies forward to stop any use of, you know, productive activity on that on that land by turning it over to agencies like the Sierra Club and, you know, some other things. And, you know, it's really pretty scary when they got to talking about that, and you think about the Department of Interior supporting things like that. I know a few years back, we were rather concerned about the use of conservation efforts and the in perpetuity clause that was in that. Once that you entered your land into a conservation easement program, that basically tied it up for in perpetuity. And there was a guy over in Meade County when we first started this show. I know we talked about that a little bit, but there's a guy over in Meade County that I think it was his granddad or uncle, some relation anyway, signed up a half section of land in Meade County into a conservation easement program. And basically he said he lost all the rights to ever farm that again. And possibly the only thing he could do was continue paying the taxes and and maybe a little hunting on that property. But you know, and I think that's becoming more the forefront of. You know, you think about the number of acres that are just been grazed by these ranchers in, you know, Arizona, Nevada, you know, all of those western states, Colorado, on the grazing that's been done on federal lands. And if they stop that, that's pretty much going to put all of those ranchers out of business, because, you know, a lot of times the majority of their acres that they run those cattle on are federal lands. And this, according to what Gruber was talking, it's the intent of the feds and to eliminate that. You know, mainly by the World Economic Forum. They're going to starve us out. Not only the guys that are running the cattle, but, you know, we the people that, you know, benefit by the use of those guys running those cattle. So I don't know, some scary stuff. But I think that goes back to why a lot of these folks, you know, in this CNN poll are beginning to realize what's really happening, and they don't want it.
Well, with those, you can't even maintain a road into the property. Say you had a well.
Yeah.
You can't take care of the road or anything. If you had flooding and you wanted to build up a berm, nope. Once you sign off on the easement, that's done. I think what we need to do as a country is get Congress to revisit any of those government easements and to remove those restrictions from any of those deals, because it makes the land worthless. I mean, totally worthless.
Yeah, it's all because they're claiming climate change and cows emitting CO2 and all that.
Well,
kind of
I
stuff.
think they're taking advantage of the elderly myself. I think that, you know, you're getting old. The government comes and says, hey, you can still live here, just be your house, but we'll pay you for everything. You don't even have to farm anymore.
Yep,
But you get to keep it.
That's what happened to the guy over in Meade County. They waved some dollars in front of him, and he was older and retired, and said, yeah, it'll be a good deal. Well, along comes grandson or whoever it is, and he wanted to take it back out and maybe farm it, and they said no.
Well, he inherited it. You know, the guy turns it over and says, you know, yeah, now you can go ahead, and he said, okay, well, let's get it working again. And they come and say, no, this is an easement property, and it's in perpetuity. You can't sell this off. You can sell it, but the next person is the same boat.
Yeah.
No roads, no crops, no watering, no nothing on this land. What does that do?
Yeah. Well, you know, and if they turn that over, you know, to the Sierra Club's got billions of dollars, and they can do exactly that same thing. They can start buying those leases up, and I think Steve was talking this morning also about you might have the right to walk in. I thought he said 50 miles, but you couldn't stay more than an hour, and then you had to get out of there. So, you know, all kinds of crazy stuff. No hunting, no fishing, no drilling, no grazing, no nothing. And that's on 10% of the federal land. So, and it's the sad part of it is it's another one of those little things that Congress never considered, never had the opportunity to consider whether it was good for America or not. It's an agency
EPA.
that has decided.
Yeah, straight out of that. And here's the other thing is, when you look at what's been going on across the globe about this environmental stuff, I heard a new term this weekend, and I think it really fits well, but they talked about, and this is a Chinese national woman who said, you know, some of these restrictions that they're doing in China was you could only get coupons for 2 pounds of meat for your family a month. And during that time, the life expectancy in China was 44. But they upped it to, you know, I can't remember, 4 or 5 pounds a month, and now it's into the 70s. But this is some of that, you know, taking meat out of your diet, taking meat off, you know, the planet. It's
Eating bugs.
contributing to carbon emissions and all this stuff. But she said it's eco-socialism. And that's what they're pushing, is eco-socialists. You know, to take over control of the climate. Has nothing to do with the climate, has nothing to do with the environment. It's everything to do with controlling what you're going to eat, what you're going to drive, how you're going to live. And until you turn over all that control to the government, you're doing it wrong. They will come in and tell you what you should be doing, and she called them eco-socialists. And I think that term fits. I mean, it's socialism. It's not, this isn't, you know, freedom or that. Let me tell you something. Freedom is what has protected the lands more than anything. Freedom is, I was talking with a hunter this week. You know, they get so many tags, and that's it. You know, they're going to get their 1 deer a year or whatever it may be. If it was turkey season, we're not going to have one in Kansas this year. And so we're not going to take any turkeys. And you know what? They're good with that because it's the right thing to do to get the populations where they need to be so we can have hunting, so we can have healthy animal populations. That's all done by freedom policies, not by eco-socialists coming in to dictate to you on this stuff. I saw another class, we were talking about this with the hunter from at church, but it wasn't local, but there was a place in the country where I think it was a FFA group, the teacher, she took down a deer, but she brought it in and they actually skinned it and processed it in the class to learn how to do that. And you know, if you're going to eat meat and all this stuff, it's good to know how that works, where that comes from, and how you do that. And so they learned and did all of that. Did you guys ever do that in your?
No. Well, you know, and back when I was in school, very seldom did you ever see a deer running around. You know, even down on the river, it was rather uncommon. But now there's, you know, I think things have changed a little bit. You see deer. You know, it's not uncommon to see them out around the house. You know, that and not many turkeys, but there are turkeys around. I know down Arcadia Park, there's deer and turkeys and all kinds of wildlife down there. But you know, back, you know, 30, 40 years ago, there wasn't that many, if any. So, you know, it's all changed. But, you know, and a lot of it has to do with, you know, different wildlife organizations, you know, improving the habitat and the habitat areas and those kind of things, but that's on a volunteer basis. It's not the government saying this is what we're going to do. It's people that are working together that said, you know, just like you were talking a minute ago. Well, there's not that many. Let's kind of whoa up here a little bit and, you know, curtail hunting season for a year and see what happens. But you know, and the environment has a lot to do with it. You know, and times of rain, you know, excess moisture, those you know, populations do a lot better if they've got something to drink, and you know, water, and snow, and all of that. But you know, you just have to kind of watch that. But the federal government to come in and say one size fits all, and there's not going to be any hunting or fishing or nothing, and nobody gets it right. You know, the best way to kill a country is to stop all your natural production resources. You know, stop oil and gas drilling, which we pretty much have done. We've opened the border wide open, welcome anybody that wants to come for whatever reason, no questions asked, just come on in. You know, all of those kind of things, you know, are out there, and we are actually killing our country. I say we, I think they, and that's those guys in that CNN poll that, you know, the less than, I guess, those 40%, you know, that are still supporting that kind of thing, to kill your own country and your own liberty and freedom. I mean, it's nuts why people don't wake up, but there's sure a lot of them out there still asleep, because that poll should be about 99%.
It's interesting to see how these numbers, you know, this far out are not favoring the incumbent, and the incumbent usually has a, you know, almost a guaranteed road back to the office. If you look back, you know, we can go back to Eisenhower was 2 terms, Kennedy was assassinated, LBJ then finished out that, Nixon was elected to 2 terms, Carter was a 1-termer, Bush was a 1-termer. But after Carter, you had Reagan for 2 terms, then you had Bush for 1 term, then you had Clinton for 2, you had Bush for 2, you had Obama for 2, and then you had Trump for 1. And right now, he may still get that second one. It is not back to back. But, you know, it's almost, unless they really do something bad. Like in Carter, you had the period of malaise, the inflation just killing people. And so, you know, he lost. Bush made the no new taxes pledge and then reneged on that on a capital gains tax on just the top, like 0.5% of the country would even pay it. And that was, you know, you reneged on that, so he lost. And then Trump had to deal with a pandemic in the 3rd or 4th year of his presidency. After 3 great years of turning the economy around and all of this, a pandemic lands in his lap. So, you know, even though the numbers look good for Trump, do you think that there's something that can be sustainable? Because, you know, usually people are like, well, it's not the best, but we know what we got. Do you think anything different about this time?
Well, I don't know. I mean, sure, there's something that could come along and derail the thing. I'm sure there's always that possibility. But on the other hand, if you look at policies and intentions and, you know, the actions of the current administration in trying to kill off America and the spirit of freedom and liberty, you know, I think more and more people, as they realize they are losing their freedoms, you know, I mean, every day they're working on gun control to take your guns away, you know, and those kind of things are not favorable to the American public and what we're used to, what we grew up with, and what we understand as our freedoms and liberty. You know, they're our God-given right, but, you know, they just, this opposition party don't want that. They want to dictate, you know, well, I was talking this morning again about, by, I forgot what year it was, not too far off, and about, I think next year or the year after, they're going to put a switch in your automobile that they can, it's a kill switch. You might be driving down the road to, you know, Plains, America, and they decide you haven't made your car payment, or they don't like the way you voted or whatever, they flip a switch and you're done. You're not going any farther. And then after a period of a few short years, you're going to have to either, I guess, get one of those switches in your vehicles that don't have one, or buy a new car, because they're not going to allow you to drive a vehicle without a kill switch in it. And who's running the button? You know, it's certainly not you. So, you know, kind of the same way with cell phones. They know where you're at every step of the way. They can put a missile right in your front pocket if you want to. But
So we drifted a little bit from the eco-socialist conversation, but B, what do you think about that term, eco-socialists? People trying to just take over the land, take over what you can eat, take over, what kind of power supply you're going to have, and if they can do all that, they can control basically everything. And even this car thing is talking about social, where the government decides what you can and can't do. But what's your thoughts on this eco-socialist movement?
Well, I think it's just another way to control the people. That's what they've been trying to do for a long time. And I think people are waking up to realizing what's trying to be done to them, and they want to put a stop to it. They want somebody that's going to lead them in the right direction and not the wrong direction, which is the direction we're heading right now is definitely not a good one.
Yeah, so you look at these attempts at takeovers, and and speaking about the takeovers, look at what's going on. But by the way, when you mentioned the car, I'm never buying a car that they can switch off, and I will never voluntarily allow that to happen to my car. That your car is your car, and if you haven't broken any laws or rules or anything like that, they shouldn't be able to tell you what you can do on the road with your car unless you do something wrong with it.
That's according to you and according to them, and they might not both agree.
Well, that's how you make sure stuff like that don't happen, is who you vote for. And then what I've called for, again, is a complete dissolution of these agencies one by one and start from the ground up. What is the EPA, what was its original intent, and why has it gotten into buying up farmers' properties to turn the land into nothing? When did they get to decide these kind of things? This is part of that eco-socialist stuff that the government was never intended to do, but I think that Congress has given too much authority to say, carry out your policies, however you see fit. Well, that's not getting it done. They have to have oversight, and it's more than just bringing a guy in and railing him. It's saying, no, we're going to take over that agency, or we're going to completely eradicate and rewrite the rules for that agency. The border is a perfect example. I mean, they're saying that they're operating within what they have the scope to do. So we go from one administration building a wall to protect the border to another one tearing down that wall and opening and welding the gates wide open. And not only that, taking the personnel away from the people trying to come in legally, shutting that port down to put more people on to process the illegal crossings. Now you tell me, how is it that an agency has the authority to go that wide of swings and say they're all within the law? It's impossible. Something is not right. That agency needs to be totally rewritten, and a new immigration policy, and it's got to start with, you got to come through the gate. And I told some people this the other day. Disney ought to be in charge of border security, because I can promise you this, you will not get into a Disney park without the proper documentation. And let them be, and it'll look beautiful, and it'll look great, and you'll think you're coming to the Magic Kingdom, but you're going to have a ticket to get in, or you're going to have the right paperwork, and that's all we're asking for. No one's against immigration. We're just saying, register at the gate.
Well, they are. That's the reason there's no control. They're registering at the gate.
Well, they're claiming asylum from countries that we have not designated as a place that qualifies for asylum. So we know they'd be denied asylum, but we're putting their cases off for 12, 15 years.
Yeah.
That is ridiculous.
And giving them phones and money.
And bus rides and plane tickets, and where do you want to go? And what are they saying? Biden, I love you. Biden, we love you. We love you, Biden.
And now they're registering to vote.
Yeah, and now they're registering, they're showing how to register. It's like, how can you register to vote? You're not even supposed to be here.
Yep. Give them a driver's license, and then they're automatically registered. The state of Kansas does that. When you go get a driver's license, you're automatically registered to vote.
But you can't get a driver's license in Kansas unless you're a citizen.
Well, maybe. Hopefully.
No, it is. That's the way it is now. But again, in places, who thinks it's okay to go ahead and give up your sacred right to vote? And you say, well, you're not giving it up. Yeah, you're giving your vote to somebody else who didn't, didn't have to know anything about the country, know anything about what's coming over here, know anything or make any kind of sacrifice, pay any taxes, do anything like that, and they get to just vote for where we're going to go with no skin in the game.
Yep.
Well, if you really want to know what's going on, you just read Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals, and that'll pretty much explain right down the line, everything from health care to borders to whatever, what is being done to us. And, it's pretty plain. That's how you destroy a country, and we're well underway. And I think, and hopefully, more and more people are starting to wake up to the fact that we are in trouble, in big trouble. I mean, look at the debt. Look at the debt that we've placed on future generations. I mean, getting mighty, mighty close to $34 trillion. I did see, though, I think I heard this morning, and I was about half asleep, but I heard that big train they're building in California, that somehow they got a hold of another $3 trillion to continue building that high-speed train in California. And I thought, $3 trillion? Where'd that kind of money come from? But I don't know, but I heard that. And like I say, I was about half asleep because that was about 4:30 or something this morning. But it's things like that are being funded without, I don't think Congress approved $3 trillion to go into that, but somehow, if that's true, where did all that money come from?
Well, tell you what, you also don't want to forget what's happening on college campuses, and we saw this weekend one of the three presidents who gave testimony. And here's the sad thing about this. I mean, we're only holding those three that gave testimony accountable. This is happening at college campuses across the country. These three came in, University of Penn, Harvard, and MIT. And all three of them basically said, you can call for genocide unless you really start doing genocide. It's really just in context. It's not really actionable. So therefore, it's not. It's free speech. It doesn't violate bullying. Well, a lot of bullying is free speech. You call someone fat, you call them ugly or whatever. You're bullying. So when you're saying, from the river to the sea, Palestine should be free, and you're calling for the eradication of all Jews, and they're saying, well, it depends on context. Well, the University of Pennsylvania lady, she couldn't survive it. That's the first domino to fall. But how is it that in Harvard, nothing yet, and now this morning, those little trucks that drive around with advertising on them, they're all, fire gay. That's her name, the name of the president, Claudine Gay. Fire gay, fire gay. And I think that, again, this is proof that just how far the left has gone, that they will support terrorists because, and let's just call it what it is. They're under the perceived notion that all Jews are actually European, and therefore this is a brown versus white argument, and they're always going to take the brown side. That's not what Judaism is. But because they were displaced from Europe because of the Holocaust, and those remaining had a choice to go to Israel and form that new country, that's a European settlement. Most of the Jewish people have Arabic backgrounds, and if you go back 2,000 years, all of the Jewish people have Arabic backgrounds, and so they've been taught this thing of just hate white people. This thing that hating Jews is because they're just assuming Jews are white people. That's what this is about. The news won't tell you that. I'm telling you that because that's what this really is. They think that there's a bunch of white people living in the middle of the Middle East that shouldn't be there and that they're Jews and we need to eradicate them. They are Arabic by blood, and yet, why isn't that coming out? Am I wrong on that?
No, I think that's right, and I think you said the magic word in all of that was being taught that. You know, and I heard somebody else on there that was talking about the education system needed to be changed, and they needed to stop teaching kids that Jews were the enemy, and they all needed to die. And you know, but that's the system we're in. It's you know, a similar system what we've got here. You know, what our kids are being taught aren't necessarily going to be to the best benefit for a majority of them in the long run. You know, I mean, we're worried about sexual orientation and all of that kind of stuff, where, you know, they need to be taught more about math and science and, you know, those kind of important educations that'll, you know, how to balance their checkbook or how to count change back, my favorite subject. But anyway, you know, but we're not teaching them that, and that's the same way with those schools over there, the education system there. They're not being taught. I mean, they are being taught that Jews are the enemy. But after they get rid of all the Jews, then who's going to be next? I mean, is it going to be all white people then? I mean, who's next? Is it going to be all black people? Is it going to be all brown people? I mean, where's it stop? And it starts in the education system of these young kids and by the parents, and you know, somewhere you have to start in the education system and change that, and it's going to be years before that can be done, if ever.
So
But that's the mentality right now. I mean, just look at the protests out in front of all of these colleges. I mean, every cotton picking day they're out there waving a Palestinian flag. Where'd they come up with that idea? I didn't learn that in school. I learned that the flag you wave here is the American flag, that red, white, and blue.
Well, that's a symbol of oppression now.
Yeah,
So.
yeah.
But B, you know, what's your thoughts on, you know, these college campuses? These three provided testimony, and of course take the Palestinian angle on all of this, and now they're getting backlash and apologizing, falling over themselves. You know, the president from Harvard basically said, "I'm sorry." The one from Pennsylvania didn't say I was sorry. He said, "I should have said this, or I should have thought that." But you know, what's your take on what's happening at these in these college campuses? And then, am I wrong on saying that this is really another Jews are white, therefore they've got to go?
You know, I thought a lot about how things have come about. You know, growing up, I grew up in a small town. It was, I'm going to say, probably 99% white. You know, we didn't know blacks, we didn't know Mexicans, we didn't know other races. That's how you learned. You learned your people, and that don't want to mean that, not that a derogatory term, but that was how we grew up. And I think people from different backgrounds sometimes don't get along because they don't understand it. And I think that's the biggest issue we face now, is understanding, you know, who the Jews are, who the any other type of people we don't follow because we don't understand them, and we need to sit down. If you sit down and talk to somebody, you know, some of my best friends in school were black, because we sit down and talked, understand. Hey, the only difference between us was the color of our skin. You know, we all bled red. You know, we all had a goal of achieving, you know, success in life. We all had the same kind of goals, just we look different. You know, and I think we need to get beyond that. You know, one of the greatest stories that I've ever heard from a friend of mine was driving his young boy, 5-year-old boy, down the street, and he saw these two kids playing in the yard. One was black, one was white. And the kid asked the dad, "Do you think they're brother and sister? You know, just look beyond the color." And I think that's where we've fallen short in this world, is we don't look beyond who we are. We want to see everything, and we want to see it in black and white. We need to see it in color because we're all different colors.
And in a coffee shop in Oakland, Jewish woman went in the bathroom and saw terrible writing about Jewish people in the bathroom. She went out. She asked the employees about it. She said she's Jewish, and they said so. They were defending it and this stuff, and so she said, "Well, I want to go back in there." And they said, "No, you can't go back in the bathroom." And she got her camera out, her phone, started recording. She said, "Why can't I go back in the bathroom?" Nope, you're not allowed in. And they were saying things to her like, "The world didn't start in 1948, lady," and stuff like that, talking about, when they started to consider creating Israel as its own state, nation, and that kind of a thing. But eventually they let her back in the bathroom, and so she recorded, and it had Zionism equals fascism. Your apathy is leading to genocide. This false claim that there's genocide going on against Palestinians. There's not. There's absolutely zero. There's not one concentration camp. There's not one example where you can show that Palestinians are not given the opportunity to vote, the opportunity to work, the opportunity to do everything that a Jewish person can do in Israel. If you want to know what genocide is, you need to study the Holocaust, because that's what genocide is. That's what it is, to try to erase a people from the face of the earth when you kill 6 million of them, and you have incinerators and concentration camps built to do it. Israel has none of that. But the owners fired these 3 employees and said, these do not reflect our values. We're going to do better at training our staff moving forward, on that we're a place where anybody can come. But I think maybe after seeing all of this stuff, maybe the rest of the country is finally getting its sanity about how far left these crazy things have gone. And I think that leads to a 10-point lead for Trump in places like Michigan and things like that. Michigan has a strong Muslim community, by the way. That's where Rashid Tlaib is from, and things like that. And I think that people are concerned, when now that they're seeing this established Sharia law and things like that. Not too long ago, what was it on TikTok? Some girl came out and said that she read that letter from Osama bin Laden and didn't realize, how many points he made. Well, one of his points was that we need to implement Sharia law. Does she realize if that was done, she wouldn't be making TikToks anymore? She wouldn't be getting an education anymore? She wouldn't be allowed to go to school anymore? She couldn't hold a job? Does she realize what Sharia law means? And yet she's out there pushing this stuff. I think other people have finally realized, hey, this isn't about being on the Jewish side or the Hamas side. This is about being on freedom's side or tyranny's side. This is about being on the side where, women have to cover up everything but their eyes and their nose when they go out in public. And if they go out in public with their friends, they'll get shot and killed because you can only go out with your husband or your brother or your dad. What, do you think maybe with this one president being, forced to resign, maybe some more resignations coming, do you think maybe we're starting to see a turn of the tide?
I don't know. I was thinking a little bit ago, those are supposed to be the highly educated folks. They've
Academics.
Been to school, you bet. They are the top of the rung. And for them to come out and pull a stunt like that and then claim that, well, I guess I misspoke or something. No, they didn't. They said exactly what they intended to say, and once the money went away and the old boy pulled his $100 million, then that's when the concern sprung about was, well, I got to figure out a way to get out of this, because we need that $100 million. Well, but those are the highly educated folks, so don't be telling me that, well, we misspoke and we didn't say the right thing. And we're all sorry, and the only reason they're sorry is because the guy pulled his funding, and they're really sorry about that, because there could have been a major portion of that money was their salary. So, you know, I don't give them any slack. They said what they said. They said it in front of Congress. They told the truth, as they swore to tell the truth, and now then they're trying to back up. Well, maybe I didn't say that just exactly right. Yes, you did. You said exactly what you thought.
Well, you're right that you said it wrong, but that's what you believed. And that was
Yeah.
the problem, is you told your truth. You know, they love to use
Yeah.
that term, your truth. That there's not truth, there's your truth. You know, the last time I looked, 3 + 3 is 6, and your truth making it 7 doesn't make that a fact.
That's right.
You know, the truth is the truth. And so these guys trying to bend that, but B, do you think returning the tide is maybe have we gotten to a point where, you know, these owners of a coffee shop fire these people? Do you think maybe people are going to finally say, we're not going to just toe this far left line, we're not going to be bullied into that anymore, we're done with this, we're not going to just be pro-Palestinian because you're forcing us to be it? You know, there was an atrocity that happened on October 7th. 1,200 people murdered, mostly in their homes or at a party, or, you know, they weren't doing anything. They weren't causing anybody any problems. Children watching their parents killed, and then they're taken hostage, and this is what we're defending. But do you see a turning of the tide?
Well, I think people, again, like I said earlier, I think people are waking up to what, you know, reality is, instead of living in a dream world and thinking that everything's hunky-dory. They realize that, hey, we've made mistakes. We need to learn from those mistakes, and I think that the people are starting to pay more attention to what's going on. I think that's what's happening in our country, especially with our government. People are seeing and understanding, instead of just listening to what CNN tells us, they're listening to what real people are telling them, you know, learning the realities of what life is and what's going on. And they're understanding that, hey, you know, instead of having a world of exclusion, how about we have a world of inclusion, that everybody's a part of it. There's not a right or wrong always. There's always a middle line that we need to toe, and let's make it right instead of making it wrong.
And when these kids have been taught this stuff, how do you fix it? How do you know, I'm not one of these deprogrammers. I'm not one of these guys claiming you got it, but you got to get people the facts. Just teach them the truth about what's, you know, what the true Holocaust was. You know, my wife was telling me, she was teaching some kids, she teaches science, she doesn't teach history, but she was telling them about the tattoos, and they were like, what tattoos? Well, the Jewish people were tattooed in Germany. Like, what do you mean? They were given a number. I mean, that's who you are. You're not a human. Your number 7032758, or whatever it was. And they're like, no. It's like, yeah, that's genocide.
Yeah.
That's a Holocaust. You know, what they're claiming over there is, you know, we want your land, Israel. Fine, if you want the land and they're not going to give it to you, you want to fight over the land, fight over the land. But realize then you better be willing to die for it. We live and die for land, historically. Human beings have done it since the beginning of time. Go back to Cain and Abel if you want to. But people fight for resources. Whether you think we've evolved past that or not, don't give me this, you know, we should be evolved past this. You have Hamas, who went and murdered 1,200 people and took 200 and some more captive. Hostages, children, women, not IDF members, not soldiers that you were facing and put them in a prison camp. No, these are hostages that you're bargaining with to try to protect yourself and hiding behind. They went into a school and they found in a teddy bear, they found weapons sewed into it. So these guys don't play by some international rules, but boy, you have to not only play by international rules, but even go steps further than that. Is what Israel's got to basically try to fight a war and put a blindfold on and tie a hand behind their back and tie their ankles together and now go in and fight a war. That's what is expected of them. But I don't know. I think that maybe we're finally turning a corner, and it's not just on that. I think that people have seen with this presidency and what's happening around the world that a weak America hasn't proven. You know, what did Biden say? America's back. America's back on the international scene. Well, gosh, if this is America back, we need to disappear then, because it was a lot more peaceful and a lot less death and destruction before. Or am I missing something here?
No, I don't think you're missing is Biden don't have any idea what he's talking about. But anyway, you know, we're not back. Maybe in his kind of world, maybe, you know, where the money keeps rolling in for, you know, favors and good deeds and all that, but no actual hard labor, you know, the production of anything except selling America out. And, you know, but it's really, really disturbing, you know, especially to me, to see, you know, what's being done in this country and to this country. And, you know, of course, I've had about 80 years experience in it, and it's all been pretty good when I think back about it. But, you know, we were a thriving economy where there have been times that it hasn't been as good as others, but, you know, pretty much the entire, since 1943, I think we've seen the good times. But now then, I begin to wonder about the next generation and, you know, what kind of, if they can say the same thing when it's all said and done and they're 70, 80 years old. And a lot of it has been done, and these destruction has been done in the last 3 years. It's been intentional and on purpose and by design. And, you know, I think if folks don't wake up, it's going to continue. And then it's going to be mighty, mighty hard to stop. You know, I mean, this is the way they've actually changed the way the water flows in the river, in my opinion. And, you know, but hopefully enough folks will wake up and start paying attention to what's really going on. And come election day, you know, how important it is to vote. I think there's nothing more that folks should do than get out and vote. I mean, it's your country. If you want to give it away or leave it to me to, you know, decide what direction you go, you know, 16% of the people in Seward County was all that voted in the last election, you know, and that's pretty much an average. Man, I mean, think if everybody got out and voted and expressed their opinion, and that's basically what it is, expressing your opinion. It's an opportunity for you to go to the ballot box and vote for the people that you believe would be the best for running your country. But, you know, all this stuff going on, all this Israeli funding, you know, the funding of all of these programs that are very questionable in a lot of, you know, a lot of instances. But we just leave it to somebody else? No, we can't leave it to anybody else, somebody else. Now we've got to get out and do that. So we've got to go vote and hopefully get some people in there that really care about, you know, the Jewish people, you know, the black people, the brown people, the white people. You know, we're all one people. We're all created under the good man above, and you know, but we can't just rely on government to, you know, help sustain us, and that's exactly what we've got to.
But again, I think you go back to, that's what the far left tells you you're supposed to do, how you're supposed to, who you're supposed to represent. You're supposed to be part of your little club, your little group of people. I'm looking at a story here about a woman who's turning 39, and she feels betrayed by feminism because, you know, she's single, no kids. Now she wants kids and a family, but you know, she's been living this life that you're told, you know, you don't do that. You know, that's old fashioned. You know, that's not the way, you know. And now she feels the wanting to be a mother and those kind of things, and she's afraid maybe life has gotten too far past her now, whether she can do that or not. But you know, this is the thing is, you know, how far has all this stuff gone? How far, you know, have we pushed all this stuff, pushed the traditional family out, pushed, you know, conservatism out? You can't talk about it on college campus. You can't do this. You can't this. You're going to do it the way, you know, this way, or we'll cancel you.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I think
Larry talked about that the other day, you know, in the black community, how the dad had been pushed out of the house and, you know, in favor of bigger welfare check or whatever, you know. I think that's exactly what's happening.
Yeah. Well, look in here. It says, Melinda Bell says they will require the kill switch to renew your license plates. Melinda, not in Kansas. I'll fight that in Kansas. The good thing is each state is its own, and they may push that, but I will never vote for anybody. I will never vote for anybody who would support a kill switch requirement in a vehicle. And I'll make that a political ad campaign starting now. Whenever any of our state of people are running, I will ask them, do you support that? You know, and I will not vote for anybody who would support putting a required kill switch to get your license plate.
Well, I can't help but think, you know, new vehicles, you know, when I can get on my Chevy app, I can get a report once a month that tells me how much oil I've used, what my tire pressure is. You can't tell me they can't shut your vehicle down if they really wanted to, when they could do those kind of things with me just on a newer vehicle. So the technology's there, and I think it's probably available. We just don't know about it.
Well, I still have a 1974 Ford Courier pickup, and I can tell you this.
It doesn't have one.
It doesn't have a plastic casing, anything in it, I don't think. And I will refuse that they do not have. When did we think that the government even should have this amount of authority it already has over people? But to even go further than that is insane.
Well, who voted on that? Who in Congress voted
Yeah.
on that to support that?
Yeah. Now, if California wants to do that, then you have a choice to live in California or not live in. If that's what the people of California are voting for, that's up to them. You know, when they're voting for this no gas by what, 2035? That's 12 years from now. 12 years from now, you tell me that no vehicle in the state of California is going to use gas? Good luck with that, California. That's on you. But that doesn't mean you get to tell me in Kansas what to do. That's just like those rules that they were setting on hogs in California. And they're saying, well, we won't even take hogs into California or processed meat if you don't follow these standards in Kansas and other places. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see
It was a
that.
while back. And it was upheld at the federal level because that's a state level thing. You're not guaranteed to sell your stuff to California if California has rules for what it's going to take in. But so you have a choice, pig farmer. Either change all that to sell to California or stop selling to California. Now, what's eventually going to happen?
Folks are going to get dang hungry.
California's going to dictate to the rest of us and we're going to let it, or the rest of us are going to say, screw California. But I tell you, like Melinda said here, I am not doing it. I will not do it. And not putting a kill switch in my car. I won't even do that little insurance thing, that little thing that plugs in. Now Heather has it, but I'm not doing it. I will not do that. I have a driving record. You can see what tickets I've had, how many accidents I've been in. Insure me based on my record. But no, you don't have a right to determine if I swerved on the road to miss something and you say I'm driving erratically, because Heather's car's done that. It comes right on the phone almost instantaneously. Think about that. You talk about technology. That car sent a message somewhere, and that somewhere automatically sent a message, this AI and all this stuff working, that you're driving erratically and this could affect your insurance rates. You're trying to avoid an accident. It doesn't know that. I'm not, no. No, I am not doing that. And I'm a technology guy. I don't have a problem with the technology. I have a problem with when technology is going to become surveillance over every little move I make and every little thing I do. You know, we used to call it the stalker song, was the police every breath you take. If you listen to that, that's a guy watching over a girl every single thing she's doing. That's stalking. I'm a free person in a free country. I am not going to be stalked by my government. And I'm not one of those guys who say, let's go live up in the mountains of Montana and get off the grid. There is no getting off the grid, by the way. I don't think you can. But at the same time, I'm not going to be monitored and dictated to either. Someone put on here bootleg bacon. Did you see that? Bootleg bacon. Yeah. That'd be a good movie.
Yeah.
You're not hauling Coors to Georgia from Texas.
Oh, smoked bacon, baby.
We'll take some bacon in there and sell it. Anyway,
I bet there's a stiff penalty for that.
earlier in the conversation, Larry White said he only uses Lyft after working for both. It's a far clearer and pleasant ride. So
Has it got a driver?
Lyft and Uber. What is the difference between Lyft and Uber? Have you done just Uber, B?
I've used an Uber. Yeah, I've never done Lyft. I see them out there all the time, but you know, and everybody has a different opinion about them. I've just never used them. It's like you hate change sometimes. You get used to what you like, and I continue to do it.
Ford or Chevy? Is
Yeah,
that-
yeah.
Yep. So, well, you know, I'll give you. You have anything else you want to add to before we're done today?
I think we're good. We've about run them all down. So
Well,
just get out and vote.
I want to see what you guys say.
Yeah.
You know, are you good with the government putting a shutoff or requiring cars to have a kill switch in your car? I can see some advantages to it. Someone steals your car, you want to shut it down, like a Find My Phone or something like that.
I think that's the least of the government's concerns, though.
You know,
I
but
think it's basically what politics you are.
do you think you should be? You couldn't get your tag unless you had it. It's kind of like the shot. It's kind of like forcing you to get the COVID shot.
If you drive too much and you're causing too much emissions before you get an electric car, you know, why then they'll shut it down. You've reached your limit of carbon credits or whatever you want to call it. You know, I mean, there's all kinds of reasons that they'll shut your vehicle off. And very little of it has to do with common sense.
Yeah.
Of course, when's the last time you ever seen government do something, you know, in the last 10 years that had any common sense behind it? It was always politically motivated towards
Yep.
a cause.
And I think it will remain that way.
Yep,
Nothing's changing on that.
that's right.
So, well, that's the news and views. We want to make sure that we give you your squeaky clean car wash weather report before we finish up today. Today is going to be sunny with a high near 57. Northwest wind 6 to 8 miles per hour, becoming south-southeast in the afternoon. Tonight, mostly clear with a low around 26. Southeast wind 5 to 7 miles per hour, becoming west-southwest after midnight. Looking ahead to the rest of the week, Tuesday, your high of 51. Tuesday night, chance of snow. Wednesday, chance of snow, high near 45. Thursday, high of 41. Friday, wet, rainy, high of 46. Saturday, 51, and Sunday, 55. So looks like not so pleasant
Well,
later
we're
on
not
this
going to
week.
freeze to death, but it's going to be a little chilly.
And it's going to be wet, sounds like. So that's the news and views you can use on the High Plains on Monday, December 11th, 2023. We'll be back with you tomorrow morning at 7:30. Until then, this is Earl with the Leader in Times with Jim Rice and B. Simon saying when you live in Liberal,
Or La Junta, Colorado.
there's no place like home.